The Patriots host the Lions on Sunday, but we are still TBD on the team's QB. Here's what we do know, however. Both Mac Jones and Bailey Zappe were present at the media portion of today's practice. Brian Hoyer was not. And here is the update Bill Belichick gave all of us heading into that practice.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. Just take it day to day. Just going to use that once a day.
Yeah.
Any update on Mac? I know he's feeling.
Yeah, we'll have the injury report for you. Yeah, can't wait to get it out.
Sure.
But just want to make sure it's accurate, so see where things are, in practice.
Has Brian been cleared to practice today?
Yeah, with that injury report, can't wait to get that to you. We'll have all the details there. See where everybody is.
Here's that much hyped injury report. That was a drum roll. Love it. Mac is listed as limited with the ankle injury. Hoyer did not participate. Also notable, Kyle Duggar, Isaiah Wynn, Jalen Mills. They were all limited as well as Jacoby Myers, who has missed the last 2 games. Lawrence Guy remains out. Johnny Smith did not practice either. All right, this is where we start today's deep dive with Tommy Curran and Phil Perry down at Gillette. I do like, guys, that Bill Belichick tries to pretend like he doesn't watch and listen to all of the television, but he knows, he said day by day, 11 times last week, Phil. So he was not going to do it again today and become the butt of jokes. But we still don't know what is going on with Mac Jones and Bailey Zappe. But you were at practice. I know it's a small portion, Phil, just, you guys get like 10 minutes to watch. But from what you saw from Mac Jones, what do you think about his possible availability for Sunday? Did he look like the type of guy who can play on Sunday against the Detroit Lions?
I'm not sure I'd go that far. I would say he was improved based on what we saw from him on Friday. We got some video from Friday's practice where it really did look like he was on one leg throwing very lightly into a net. Today, he was able to put some zip on the ball. I thought he looked much better, honestly. Now, he was limping at times, and that's why I hesitate to say, oh, this guy should be good to go. We can't go there yet, Tom. But I also wouldn't rule it out because we know how competitive this guy is. We know that if he can walk, he wants to be able to play. I just don't know if he'll actually get to that point by the weekend.
And it's fascinating because, Trenni, as we talk about the continual push-pull of players wanting to be on the field and the league owing it to them to make sure that they're auditing them, it extends to injuries, too, with players being honest with themselves and what they can do. Because it does not imperil, but it puts and leverages the rest of the team. Look, Mac Jones wants to be out there, and he'll go if they allow him to. But is he going to be honest with himself and say, man, this thing hurts so much I can barely step through and finish on my left side because it hurts so bad, but I want to play, and they told me I could. There comes that equation that I think Bill Belichick referenced today about, okay, what's the percentage that we need Mac to be at where it outbalances Bailey Zappe at 100?
Yeah, and to your point, Curran, Ian Rappaport today went on NFL Network and said, yeah, it kind of sounds like that is Mac Jones's mindset, that he wants to play if they'll let him go. Curran, listen, you always want a quarterback who, regardless of how he feels, wants to get out there and play and be there for his team. But should he play? Like, does Mac Jones really need to play on Sunday?
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, again, health providing. I don't want anybody in harm's way. If he can't escape Aiden Hutchinson because he's hobbling around, that's no good. But it's more important that he plays this week than it was last week because the drop-off, regardless of what happened with Brian Hoyer, is going to be much more significant from Bailey. You get my point.
No question. I mean, these are not anywhere near the same caliber quarterback right now. That's just how it is. The breadth of the offense would be far reduced with Bailey Zappe. The arm isn't the same. The mobility is not the same. Now, obviously, if Mac Jones is hurt, that's going to be diminished. But if he can play, the Patriots are going to want him to play because that's how they're built. He'll be able to actually run the offense. So to me, there's really no question there. I do think the one provision that you have if you're the Patriots that maybe you can lean on is this Lions team tends to give up a lot of points no matter who they face. So if there is a soft landing spot for Bailey Zappe at home against the worst defense in the NFL, this might be it.
Yeah, Phil, I joked today that I might be able to start at quarterback and score points against the Lions defense. All right, guys, time now for the Ford Big Board. Here's a look at what Zappe did in his NFL debut on Sunday at Lambeau. Zappe, who played the majority of the game after Brian Hoyer left with a head injury, went 10 for 15 for 99 yards and a touchdown in his losing effort. Ford built Big Board, by the way, built Ford America, built Ford proud. Zappe did speak today about what he learned in that first career game.
There's a lot of things. I'm not going to get into the specifics, but there are some things that I've learned from, just my fundamentals, being able to calm myself down and, just continue to focus on my job and what my job is at hand.
You guys heard what Ian Rappaport said. Hey, there's a chance. He looked okay out there. Phil, you said he looked all right, but he was limping, but there has been progress. But Phil, are we should we just all accept the fact that we're probably going to see Bailey Zappe on Sunday?
I think there's a good possibility of that, no question. I think Bailey Zappe is probably, he's going to be playing behind a line too, Tom. This is something that we haven't really talked a whole lot about, that has been protecting starting quarterbacks for the Patriots, who have now, in 3 of the 4 games this season, not been able to meet with the media after that game because of injury. And so whether it's Bailey Zappe, Mac Jones, Garrett Gilbert, whoever it is, this might be a good argument for why not to play Mac Jones if the mobility is diminished, because the protection just hasn't been consistent enough for this team. And so if he's out there, Zappe, he's going to have to be ready to move a little bit.
Yep, no doubt. And again, I can't help but retreat back to what we've witnessed and seen for 20 years with Tom Brady. And it's not just all the things that he did to take care of his body. It's the size of Tom Brady. At 6'5", 225, 230. It's just a bigger guy. And it's interesting as the NFL evolves and the play style evolves and the size of the quarterbacks evolves, there is a greater likelihood that some guys are going to get banged up. But, yeah, I mean, you're going to have to provide for these guys and make sure they're protected. Again, as Phil pointed out, Detroit, the worst run defense in the NFL. The Patriots, certainly one of the most potent rushing offenses. So there's your crutch right there if, indeed, Mac Jones is going to take the field.
Curran, if Bailey Zappe does play on Sunday against a very porous, as Phil pointed out, Detroit defense, does this sort of become a defining game for him? And I'm not saying like defining in the sense that then he's going to become, the Patriots' next guy at quarterback, but more so at the very least showing the Patriots and maybe other teams, hey, when I'm out there, I can at least control things. I can help a team win a game. But on the flip side, I think the one thing that, I'm a little concerned about is if he goes out and looks bad against that Lions defense, you're going to be like, "Ooh, man, you may not be able to play in the NFL."
Well, I think that evaluators will look really hard at what he was doing. I mean, he's here for the long haul in terms of this year, and I would imagine that we'll see him next summer in training camp and on forward. So I don't think Bailey Zappe's going anywhere, but it's an important role. Can he ever elevate to being a starting quarterback in the NFL? I would say it's probably less than 30% likelihood being drafted in the 4th round and the size that he is from Western Kentucky. So he's probably not going to ruin his future if he plays poorly in his second start against Detroit, but he can make some money.
No doubt. I think it's a massive opportunity for him, Trenni. I have a hard time going to the point where we start to say whatever he does in week 5 of his rookie season in his first NFL start, that's a sign of what he's going to be for the foreseeable future, good or bad. Because I just think the spot that he's in now is still really difficult. Even if he gets all the starters reps this week and they devise a plan that's built around his physical skill set, it's still going to be pretty limited. And the chemistry that he has with these guys is still going to be limited because he really didn't get a lot of snaps with these guys in training camp. Even last week, Matt Judon told us after the game in Green Bay last week, I'm not even sure how many reps he got with the ones. And so for him to get out there was amazing. That's how Judon termed it. I think part of that was based on the week of practice that he had where Brian Hoyer was really leaned on. So I'm not going too far with Zappe depending on how this game goes in either direction.
Phil, I know you love the draft. You love watching college football. So when you watch Bailey Zappe, both at Western Kentucky and, the limited amount that you've had with him in training camp and then last week against the Packers, what is his ceiling? Is he anything more than a backup? Could he be anything more than a backup?
I've spoken to evaluators who watched him really closely coming out of college, have watched him since in preseason and this past week. And Tom, it feels as though the consensus on him right now, at least, is that he could be a solid backup for you. I think people look at his arm strength and say it is borderline NFL caliber, but he's viewed as a smart player, an accurate quarterback, a tough guy, good leader, all the things we saw poise-wise last week. And so, to me, you're looking at somebody who probably, the name I've been told that he resembles is Nick Mullins, which has value, but it's also probably not a long-term starter.
Yeah. Taller, faster, stronger. He could be a starter, but he doesn't fit the suit. What he does fit the suit with is intelligence and the ability to read defense and production and self-belief and poise. And those things are all important too. So you don't want to rule it out, but as we look around the NFL, the guys who are under center on a regular basis, they have some attributes that are off the charts outstanding. Even Mac Jones is significantly bigger than Bailey Zappe. And Bailey Zappe is a little guy, so I don't know how he's going to generate. He's not Doug Flutie. He's not that fast. He's not that elusive. So I would imagine that Bailey Zappe is going to trend towards being a spot starter at best in the NFL. And there's no shame in that. We got a guy on here from 10 to 2 every day who was a spot starter in the NFL. Big, strong, strapping guy, gravelly voice. He could throw it through a brick wall. And he had a nice long NFL career as a guy who probably could have found, Scott Zolak, a position somewhere in the NFL where he could have been a starter because he had the physical attributes. And he just was locked behind some good players throughout his career. But it is a fascinating conversation is what the ceiling is. But I would say spot starter at best for me.
I don't mean to laugh, Curran, but you're basically like, well, I mean, if you had a totally different physical specimen, you might be okay, kid, but you're not.